y'all, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello and welcome. I have got some product roundups for y'all today, and there's a lot of products sitting here in front of me, so I'm going to try and get through these as fast as I possibly can while still being very thorough. But as always, I will have all these products linked and listed down below in the description box, as well as what I am wearing on my face today. So per usual, if you're ever curious about anything I use in any of my videos here on my channel, always check the description box. I squeeze as much information as I possibly can into that tiny little space. But without further ado, let's get to it. Alright y'all, so before we jump to these reviews, please keep in mind that all of this is based off of my skin type, my personal preferences, and how I like to do my makeup. So just because I don't like a product and you do, doesn't make me right or you wrong. It just means that we have different preferences, different styles, and that we like different things, and that is okay. All of these products were made with somebody in mind, and I'm glad somebody out there loves them if I don't. But let's jump into this. So I like to go in order of application of how I do my makeup. So we're going to go ahead and start with like skin prep and primer, and the first one that I have is going to come to us from Chantecaille. This is the Sheer Glow Rose Face Tint, and this is meant to be like a moisturizer, primer, glow booster, hybrid type of product. It's not one that you can mix into your foundation or even use as a highlighter. It's just meant to be worn under your foundation or even on its own, just to give the most beautiful glow, and that's exactly what this does. This has a really nice gel consistency, very similar to the Future Skin foundation from Chantecaille that I love so much. It's a holy grail of mine, but it has just the most beautiful, lightweight, hydrating consistency to it. It's like a cool drink of water for the skin. It doesn't feel heavy, greasy, oily, or thick on the skin. It just kind of sinks into it. It looks beautiful on its own. It adds the most beautiful kind of soft glow under more skin tints. You can't really see it under your more medium to full coverage foundations, but it is beautiful on the skin. Like I said, it's very hydrating, and I have really been enjoying this one. But moving on, I want to talk about a concealer really quick because it's also from Chantecaille, and then we'll move on to foundation. So a little out of order, but it is what it is. So I have this one. This is the Chantecaille Le Camouflage Stylo Anti-Fatigue Corrector Pen. First of all, I am not a fan of the applicator. It's one of those that has like the brush style with a little clicky at the bottom, but I can get past that because this is an incredible concealer. Again, it is very lightweight, very hydrating under the skin, but not so hydrating where I find that it moves around and sinks into my lines. It just looks beautiful no matter what. My skin has been extra dry as of late. Normally it runs pretty normal to dry, but with the cold weather that we've been having, it has been very dry, especially under my under eyes. And a lot of my favorite concealers have looked very heavy, crepey, and just dehydrated under there, and this has looked gorgeous. I'm wearing it right now, and it just sets down on its own. I can powder it if I want to, but I don't need to. It just stays in place. It has a light to medium coverage. You can sheer it out, you can build it up a little bit, and I have really been enjoying this, and I would 100% repurchase it during a sale because it is a little bit pricey, but I just love it that much. And like I said, I can get past the applicator because of how much I love it. Moving on to foundation, the first one that we had to chat about, I actually don't have anymore. I ended up returning it because it was that bad. It's the Lawless Forget the Filler Skin Plumping Line Smoothing Foundation, and I was so excited about this foundation because I loved the claims of it. It's a weightless, full coverage, non-acnegenic foundation that instantly blurs and smooths for a second skin finish, proven to reduce the look of fine lines and improve skin elasticity over time. It's full coverage, natural finish, liquid. It's supposed to be for all skin types, and I disagree with everything except for the fact that it is a full coverage foundation. But my first gripe with this one, this is going to take me a minute, y'all. My first gripe with this foundation is the shade range. I got the lightest one in the range, which was 1F. It looked like it was going to be a good shade online, maybe a little too neutral. It is not neutral at all. It has a very kind of yellowy orange undertone to it, and it is too dark. I could tell the minute I saw it in the bottle, but you never know because it's a frosted glass bottle. So I put it on my skin and I thought, okay, this is a little too dark, but once I kind of blended it in, I thought this isn't too bad. It looks halfway decent. I can probably shade adjust it if I love it and I need to. So I put the foundation on, and I had it on for about an hour, and I got in the car to go pick up groceries, and I looked in the mirror and it had oxidized about a shade and a half on me, and it was very orange. I looked like I stepped out of Jersey Shore. It was my first day trying the foundation. I was gonna do a 7-day wear test, and I got home and I was like, I have to take this off. I have somewhere to be and I cannot go out in public looking like this. I looked like this in high school. I don't want to look like this now, you know, the whole 2 shades too dark is just, we can do better than that. So I was like, well, let's take this off and let's see if I can just do like a white mix into it, lighten it up a little bit, make it work for me. And it lightened it, but it still had like an orangey undertone to it. So at that point, I wore it for a little bit longer and it just never looked beautiful on my skin. I ended up taking it off. I ended up returning it because, one, it's a $43 foundation, and I have a lot of foundations in my collection that I absolutely love. I don't have to make work for my skin, so why would I hang on to it? But it looked very heavy, very cakey on my skin. It did not have a natural skin-like finish to it at all. I didn't find that it improved the look of the lines on my forehead. I'm sure they probably mean over time if you use it every single day, but it also kind of sounded like it meant it's going to instantly kind of blur that, and it didn't. It clung, it sunk into them, it accentuated the texture around my face, and it even broke me out like right around here. It's kind of gone away a little bit because I let my face rest yesterday, but it was a no-go. So I ended up returning it to Sephora, and when I did, the girl that helped me was like, we've had a lot of people return this foundation, mostly because of the shade range. I think if you can find a shade that works for you and you have really oily skin and you want a full coverage, it's going to stay in place, you might like it. But for me, it was a no-go. Between being really dry right now and the shade range, it was terrible. So I never got around to a 7-day wear test with it, and for good reason, I feel. But I wanted to throw it in here so I could let you know, because technically I did test it out and it was a fail immediately. All right, y'all, let's move on to a more positive note. So I have the stick foundation from Merit, and I actually got this from a friend of mine. We are complexion twins, but we have opposite skin types. So she's oily, I'm normal dry. So anything that doesn't work for me, I give to her, and vice versa. And she gave me this foundation because it was just a little too hydrating for her, and I love this. I'm wearing it today. It looks very natural and very blurring on my skin. It just gives me that my skin but better, which is what I have been going for lately. As I get older, I want my skin to look very plump, very juicy, very natural. I'm just not into the heavy, cakey complexion anymore, and this is gorgeous. It is very hydrating, but it's very lightweight. You can use it as a light concealer under the eyes as well. This is in the shade Ceramic, which is just a little bit too light for me, but once I get everything on, you can't really tell. But it is so creamy and hydrating and lightweight on the skin, and I've just really been enjoying it. It has been wearing well for me. I haven't had any issues with it wearing off, breaking up, sinking in around my mouth or my nose or even on my forehead. It just looks beautiful all day. So it's not one that I did a full 7-day wear test on, but I have probably worn it at least 7 days at this point, and I wanted to mention it because I have tried it. It is newer, and I absolutely love this foundation. It is a new favorite of mine. Moving on to setting spray, I have 2 of them. So the first one that we have is going to be the Anastasia Beverly Hills Impeccable Setting Spray. This is the one that I am wearing today, and this is beautiful. Not only does this kind of mesh all of my makeup together, take away that powdery look, but it also extends the longevity of my makeup, and that's what I want from like a true setting spray. So I do really love this. I think it's a great product. I just picked up like the mini version of it, but I would 100% repurchase this when it runs out. I don't really have anything else to say because it's a setting spray and it does what it's supposed to do. But moving on to the Tarte LifeLock setting spray, I like this one in the sense that it meshes everything together. It's hydrating. It really kind of cools the skin, but I don't notice where it extends the longevity of my makeup. So it's one that I would 100%, you know, use up, get it out of my collection, but I wouldn't repurchase it for that reason. So if you're looking for something that is going to lock your makeup in place, I just don't find that this one does the trick. From Kosas, we have the Cloud Set Translucent Loose Setting Powder. I have mine in the shade Translucent Candy, which is the pink shade, and this is very pink. Do not get me wrong. It looks beautiful all over my skin with a big fluffy brush. I am wearing it today, but under my eyes, it's too pink because it's too much of a concentrated area. So while it does look very blurring and soft focused under there, it's too pink for me to wear under my eyes. So I just ignore my under eyes with this one. But as far as all over the face goes, this is such a beautiful powder. It's a lot like their original baked version, except this one has a little bit more of, I want to say luminosity to it, but when I say luminosity, my mind goes to Givenchy Prism Libre, the new reformulated version, and it's not like that. It's more like the Hourglass Veil Setting Powder, where it just doesn't look matte on the skin. It doesn't look heavy, drying, or cakey. It just has this really pretty kind of natural glow to the skin, where it looks like your skin but better while still setting everything down. It is very blurring, very finely milled. A little bit goes a long way, and this is a huge container, y'all. There is 20 grams or 0.705 ounces of product in here, and I feel like that's a lot of setting powder, but this is beautiful. I have really been enjoying it because I'm loving that I can set everything down without taking that natural glow away from my skin. Moving on to the bronzer slash contour category, I do have two of them, and the first one is going to come to us from Rare Beauty. This is the Soft Pinch Liquid Contour. I have mine in the shade Gentle, which is the lightest one in the line. I love this. I have been using this so much. Again, I am wearing it today. A lot of the products that I am wearing are ones that are included in here because I wanted to give them one last go and kind of showcase them while I'm doing this. But this is a beautiful, beautiful formula. It definitely has a little bit of a gel-like consistency, and this is very pigmented. A little bit goes a long way, but I will say this isn't nearly as pigmented as her liquid blushes are. With those, one teeny tiny little dot and I can practically do both cheeks, whereas this one I can do like 2 dots on each cheek, a dot on the forehead on each side, and blend it in, and it just shears out beautifully. It looks a little stark when you first start to blend it, but just keep blending and it just kind of melts into the skin and gives you the most seamless color back to the skin. And I love this tone. It's a little bit more, I don't want to say it's cool toned. It has a little bit of warmth to it, but it's like that red undertone warmth to it, which for my cool undertone is very flattering. I love that this doesn't come off super orange or yellowy on my skin, and it just gives the most beautiful sun-kissed color back to my skin. I've really, really been enjoying this one. I love it a lot, and this is a huge, huge bottle. Like, how much is in here? 0.503 fluid ounces or 14.88 milliliters. That's a lot of product. I'm not comparing to anything else right now, but I feel like that is a lot of product. But the next one I have is a bronzer, and it's from What's Up Beauty. This is the Cheeky Tear bronzer. These came out last year. I'm a little late to this one, but I've heard so many good things about this formula, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. I have enjoyed the few things I've tried from the brand, so I decided to pick this up, and this is a really nice formula. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's also nothing to write home about it. I got the lightest one in the line, which is 10 Light, and this is very buildable. I like the undertone in here. It's a little bit more neutral for me, and I like that it's buildable, but it's almost too buildable in the sense that I really kind of have to pack it on my skin in order to get the color payoff. So I probably could have gone one shade darker, but that one looked a little too warm for me. So while I do really like the formula in here, it's finely milled, it's very blurring on the skin, it has like a soft sheen to it. It's not shimmery, but it's not a flat matte. It looks very natural. I just wish that the shades were a little bit more, I guess, concentrated, or maybe something kind of in between this one and the next one up. So that's kind of my only little gripe with it, but I do think it's a really nice product. I've been enjoying it a lot. I've been wearing it a lot. It's just not an absolute standout for me. Moving on to blush, we've got quite a few of them to chat about, and that's because blush is still having a moment in 2025, and I love blush. I'm such a sucker for it. I want every shade and every formula, so I have to really show restraint when it comes to blush, but we're gonna run through these as fast as we can. And the first one is gonna come to us once again from What's Up Beauty. This is the Cheeky Tear blush, and I have mine in the shade 10 Peaceful Pizza. It's the lightest one in the range, just like the bronzer. I got a bundle deal on their website, and unfortunately you can't pick your shades. I wish you could, but that's neither here nor there. But the formula in here is beautiful. It's a lot like the one in the bronzer. It's very buildable in pigmentation. It's very soft focused, very blurring. It has a little bit bit of a luminosity to it. It's not shimmery or glowy. It's just not a flat matte. But like I said, it is buildable in pigmentation. And just like the bronzer, it's a little too buildable in pigmentation for my personal preferences. I do like a more buildable product, but I really have to dig into this one to get any sort of color payoff on my cheek. Once it's on there, it looks beautiful and I love it. It's just one that I don't always gravitate towards because I really have to work to build it up and I don't want to burn through this product. And I feel like I could, but at the same time, a little bit goes a long way. So I have like a love-hate relationship with this blush, but while the formula is really nice and it does look beautiful on the cheeks, it's not anything that I'm rushing out to purchase more shades in or anything like that. Again, just like the bronzer, it's one that I will use up, one that I am happy to keep around, but it's not one that I would repurchase or purchase another shade in. Up next from YSL, we have the new Make Me blushes, and yes, I do have 3 of these. It's a bit excessive, I know, but hear me out. The reason I have 3 is when these first launched, I ordered Restless Rose and Nude Lavalier, which is a wildly popular shade, by the way, and for good reason. But when I got my package in the mail from Sephora, they accidentally sent me Peachy Nude instead. So I reached out to Sephora, and because I've had issues in the past with them sending me the wrong things or somebody else's order entirely, they told me that they could not exchange the product, that I could return it, but I couldn't get a refund. It was a whole thing. I was really confused. I talked to her for quite a while, and ultimately I decided to just keep it because I didn't want to risk not getting my money back, and that gave me not only the shimmering formula, but the matte formula as well. But I like the shimmering formula so much that I went on YSL and ordered Nude Lavalier. So that's how I ended up with 3 shades, and I'm not mad about it if I'm being completely honest. But I do like the shimmering formula better. I find these to be much easier to work with. They are very pigmented. A little bit goes a long way, but they do blend out beautifully on the cheek, and they do have a shimmer to them. It's not glittery, it's not chunky, it doesn't emphasize texture. I don't have a lot of texture on my cheeks, have you? But I do have shimmering blushes in my collection that can find texture and bring it to the forefront, and these don't do that. I find these to be very user-friendly and just beautiful on the cheeks. The pigmentation lasts all day, and I love this formula. I can't say the same for the matte formula though, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's the extra mica in the shimmering ones that make them work better or what it is, but these just go on patchy on me, and it only goes on patchy if I go in with a synthetic brush. If I go in with a natural bristle brush, I don't really have that issue. I still have to work a little bit harder to kind of blend them out and soften it and diffuse it on the cheek, but it's just a little finicky is really what it comes down to, and I don't know if anybody else is having that problem. I feel like everybody else raves about all of the formulas, and I'm over here going, the matte is just okay. It's not horrible. I just had to put more elbow grease into it. I have to be careful about the brush that I use, and I just don't absolutely love it. So I would 100% purchase every single shade in the glowy formula, but the matte one I could skip out on. I will use it. I will hang on to it, especially for reference purposes, but it's just not an absolute favorite of mine. From ColourPop, I have the Instant Crush Lip and Cheek Balms. I do have 2 different shades. These came out with the A Shadow of Secrets collection, I believe is what it's called, which is loosely based off of A Quarter Thorn and Roses. But this formula is nice. It's not an absolute favorite of mine, and the reason is it's a little finicky with application. These dry down really quickly, so you can't really go in with a finger, otherwise you're gonna have kind of dots on your face. And if you go in with a brush, you have to work really quickly in small spaces, otherwise it can kind of do the same thing. It doesn't lift the product underneath, it just dries down really quickly. I can use these both over and under powder without disturbing the makeup underneath, but I find that these work best if I go in with a sponge, which is not my preferred application of anything other than a foundation and maybe concealer. I'm just not the biggest fan of it, but because these dry down so fast and because they're very concentrated as far as pigmentation, I have to go in that way, which is why I like them, but I don't love them. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So there it is on my hand, and instantly it's dried down so much that it's hard to blend out. So that's where my kind of gripe comes with. It's a great affordable option. I mean, it's ColourPop, which is a more affordable drugstore-esque brand. So it's a good product. I think they look beautiful on the cheeks. I like kind of the soft, dewy look that they have. They do dry down. They don't stay sticky. Again, they're just a little bit finicky with application. So not a favorite, but it's not the worst product either. From Rare Beauty, we have the Matte Bouncy Blushes, and this is one of those putty-like textures, very similar to the Glow Play blushes from MAC, except this is a matte blush, so it dries down. It doesn't have any sort of sheen, shimmer, glimmer, anything like that to it. It is a flat matte blush, but it does look very soft and blurring on the skin. The pigmentation lasts all day, and I don't have any issues with this disrupting the product underneath. It doesn't move it around. Whether I go over or under powder, it works beautifully, but these are very pigmented. Just like her liquid blushes, a tiny bit goes a long way. So what I like to do is very softly dip my brush in there and build it up on my cheeks, because if I go in too heavy-handed, it really gets away from me and we've got a whole blush moment going on. The first time I ever use this, I just kind of willy-nilly dip my brush in there and put it on. I was like, whoops, we've got way too much blush going on. So beautiful formula, very concentrated, a little bit goes a long way. So something to keep in mind, but it does look beautiful on the cheek. Like, look at how soft and blurring that looks like, even as just a swatch on the back of my hand. It is a beautiful formula, just a little bit goes a long way. That's all I'm saying. All right, y'all, so I think this is our final blush to chat about, at least in this video, but this is the High Blush Cloudy Cream Cheek Duo from Natasha Denona. This is a nice formula. It's very creamy. I think when I first tried this, I said that the highlighter was a powder highlighter. I don't know what I was thinking. It is a cream highlighter, but this is very creamy. It doesn't feel balmy. It doesn't feel putty-like. It's not super stiff. It is a very creamy formula and it goes on beautifully. This is very buildable in pigmentation and it just softens out and blurs beautifully on the cheeks. And I think the highlighter is beautiful as well. It does have a little bit of a base to it, but it looks beautiful on my skin. I like how it gives a little bit more than a lit from within glow. It's not super beaming, but it's also not super subtle either. I think these apply beautifully. I think they blend out beautifully. I don't have any issues with it lifting the product underneath or disrupting my makeup. My only gripe is that I feel like the pigmentation fades throughout the day. At least for me it does. I've already had this on for a couple of hours and I can see that the pigmentation has faded. So it's definitely something I feel like you either need to kind of pack on at the beginning of the day or take it with you to reiterate and reapply throughout the day. I'm not the type of person to fuss with my makeup at all throughout the day. I might redo my lip, but other than that, I want to put it on first thing in the morning and have it look good till the end of the day. At least as good as it possibly can. I know it's going to look a little bit worn, but this fades on me. So for me, it's not an absolute favorite. I think it's a nice formula. I think it's great for shorter days, but for long wear days, this just isn't the one that I'm reaching for. But other than that, I like it. I think it's pretty. I think the shade range could use a little bit of help. It's very pink. There wasn't a whole lot of variety as far as the shades go. I felt like it was kind of very much so the same shade. It just got darker as the shade range went. I would like to see more peachy shades, maybe some more lilac-y shades, some more neutral shades, something other than pink, but it's nice. It's not the best, but it is what it is. It's okay in my eyes. Moving on to highlighter, we only have two of them to chat about, and the first one is going to come to us from RMS Beauty. This is the Redimension Hydra Dew Luminizer, and it only comes in one shade, which is Prosecco Fizz. This is gorgeous. I got this because Angelica Nyqvist kind of raves about it. She talks about how beautiful it is on the skin, and she is 100% right. This just looks gorgeous on the skin. It is a powder highlighter, but it almost has like this dewy finish to it, like this wet look on the skin. It just blends in. It has a little bit of a translucent base to it, so it's not too deep for my skin tone. I think it's going to work well for a lot of skin tones across the range, and it just looks really pretty. You can definitely build it up to give it a little bit more oomph if you want to. You can pile this on top of like a little bit more of a tacky base to really amplify it. You can go in very light-handed, get something a little bit softer. It looks beautiful on the eyes, beautiful as an inner corner. I've really been enjoying this formula, and if she came out with more shades, I would pick more up because I think it's that good of a formula. I've really been enjoying a lot of things from RMS, but that one is definitely a standout for me. But the other highlighter that we have to talk about is a liquid highlighter, and this one is from the Dexter Lethal Cosmetics collection. This is the Luminol liquid highlighter, and this is beautiful. Now listen, if you don't like a little bit of a flip to your highlighter, you're not gonna like this, but this is so beautiful. It has kind of like this greeny purpley flip to it. If you watch Dexter, color. You know that luminol is the product that you spray to kind of find blood that's been cleaned up, and that's what this is inspired by, and it just looks incredibly beautiful on the cheeks. I love that it's transparent, so you can see it on my hand. When I turn, there's nothing, and then whenever I turn it in the light, it kind of shifts. You can really kind of sheer this out a little bit so it's not quite this intense on the cheeks. In fact, I'm gonna put a little bit on over here so you can see what I'm talking about, but it just goes on beautifully. It's not chunky, it's not glittery, it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not sticky on the skin. It doesn't lift the product underneath or disrupt anything. And look at that cool glow that it has when I turn my cheek. I just think this is such a unique and beautiful product and a really impressive liquid formula. I'm not the biggest fan of liquid highlighters. It has to be really good for me to love it. And this one is a really good formula. All right, so we've got a couple of eye products to chat about, and then we've got some lip products, and we will be done. So we're gonna go ahead and start with eyes. And up first, I wanna talk about a couple of eyeshadow palettes. So yes, normally all of my eyeshadow palettes go into a ranking video, but I have two from ColourPop, and I wasn't really sure where to put them. I toyed with the idea of putting them in with my indie palettes, but it didn't really make sense, and a lot of y'all pointed that out, and I didn't wanna put it in with high-end and luxury, and I don't try out a lot of affordable eyeshadow brands. So for now, they're gonna go in here with just everything else. And the first one that we have is the A Shadow of Secrets palette. This is really nice. The formula in here is great from ColourPop. Very easy to work with, very buildable, blendable. I don't get any fallout with the shades in here at all, even the darker ones in here. But this is a very dark color story, and for my fair skin, I have to bring in something else to make it work for me. I can make it work, but I'm going to get very dark, smoky looks with this, and that's not a preference of mine. I like to have some lightness and brightness on my eyes to kind of open things up. I feel like anything too dark can really kind of drag my face down, close off my eyes, and make me look a little bit older, and that's not what I want. But I do think the shimmers in here are beautiful. We do have a couple of pressed glitters, but I'm not mad about ColourPop pressed glitters. I find them to be very fine, very easy to work with. They don't feel heavy or chunky on the lid, and I do really like this color story, but like I said, it's more of a companion palette for me. So formula is great, color story is nice, it's just not my perfect color story. And then the other one that we have is going to be from the Twilight collection. This is the New Moon eyeshadow palette, and this is your warm color story. The first Twilight palette was very cool tone. It had sort of that blue cast that the whole movie had. This one has more of that yellowy warm cast that this movie has on it. I like this color story more than the first one. I also like this color story more than the last palette that we chatted about. I like that there's more depth in here. There's more variety as far as the colors go, but this is very warm tone. So if you don't like warm tones, you're not gonna like this, but I really like the shade selection here. I like the variety in here. I like the shimmers in here. This one is a pressed glitter, but it looks so beautiful and shimmery on the lid. It just looks like moonlight hitting water or a meadow or something. I don't know. It looks beautiful on the lid. I'm running out of descriptions with these because the formula is great. The shades are great. It's a good ColourPop palette. There's nothing wrong with it at all. So I just wanted to mention those in this video really quick. I know that wasn't ranking and it was a little out of character for one of these, but I wanted to give you my thoughts on them. So let's move on. The next eye product that I have to chat about is from Maybelline. It is the Super Fluff Brow Mousse. This is what I'm wearing in my brows today. This is what I have been wearing pretty much since I picked this up. I think I've changed it up a little bit. This is really, really nice. It's very easy to work with. It's got lots of pigmentation in it. It definitely gives extra fluff and fullness to my brows. My brows are tattooed on, but they are starting to fade at this point, and I like something where I can just kind of reiterate it. I'm not trying to draw my brows in or do anything crazy, and this does have pretty decent hold to it. I don't have super squirrely brows, so I can't really attest to it, but it definitely holds mine in place. It doesn't fade, it doesn't flake. It's a good product and I've really been enjoying it, so it's a winner in my book, and the fact that I found an affordable brow product makes me so happy. And the last thing that we have to chat about in the eye category is going to be liners. I'm not going to stay on these very long because they either work or they don't. I am very picky with my eyeliners, but let's go ahead and run through these. So the first ones that we have are going to come to us from Chanel. These are the long-lasting waterproof liners. These are really nice. I don't know if they're necessarily worth the money. They can drag a little bit on my eyes depending on what I'm putting them over. If I'm going over something that's more of a multi-chrome from an indie brand and has a little bit more texture, they don't glide on quite as nicely. But if I'm going over a matte or like a really smooth, just sparkly metallic shade, they go on really nicely. But they do go in my waterline nicely. They stay down. They don't budge once I have them on my lid, and they don't irritate my eyes. I have very watery eyes, very sensitive eyes, and it does not take much to get them to just pull up and just go downhill from there. So these are really nice, but they're not an absolute favorite of mine. I still prefer my Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal liners. I prefer the NYX Epic Wear liners, even the LA Girl and the ColourPop liners over these, but these are really good. I will use them. I just don't know if I would pick up more shades in the future. The next one that I have is going to come to us from Revolution, which is, I believe, just Makeup Revolution's brand, but this is the Streamline Eyeliner, and this is in the shade Purple. The formula is nice. It stays in place. It doesn't irritate my eyes. It glides on really nicely, but it's not very pigmented. Like when you put it on the back of the hand, it looks like it's going to be pigmented, but when you start putting it on the thin skin on your eyes, it just takes a little bit to build up to it. So not an absolute favorite of mine. I was a little bit disappointed. It works better in or on the lid than it does in the lower waterline, just because the skin down there is a little bit different. So I prefer this for the lid versus the waterline. It's fine, but again, not a favorite. I would not purchase more. And the last one that I have is going to come to us from Esam, and this one was disappointing because this drags on my eyes. Even if there is nothing on my lids, this drags. It is not as creamy as I want it to be. I think if you have younger lids, this would work out great, but for someone with more mature lids, I've got some loose skin, some wrinkles, some crepiness going on. This is really hard to apply without it skipping as it goes across my lid. It works great in the lower waterline though. It goes on really nicely. It dries down. It doesn't budge. It doesn't irritate my eyes. So it works, but it doesn't work. And if I have a pencil liner, I want it to work both ways. I usually do a liquid liner on my lid, but I want my pencil liners to work on my lid as well. So good formula. Again, I wouldn't repurchase it and I wouldn't recommend it for more mature lids. All right, y'all, so I lied. We do have one more eye product to talk about, and it's the multi-chrome eyeshadow sticks that came out with the ColourPop New Moon collection. And y'all, these are so good. I am really impressed with how flippy and reflective these are on the lid, especially from an affordable brand, because from what I understand, multi-chromes are not cheap or easy to formulate. They can be a little bit pricey with the ingredients that you have to use, and these are so good. I'm going to show y'all in just a minute, but they are flippy, they are reflective, they go on very smooth and creamy. They are easy to blend out, and they lock down and they stay in place all day. I don't have any issues with these creasing on me, but keep in mind, I do go over an eyeshadow base every single time I use these because I do have very oily eyelids, and I'm sure that these would 100% crease on me if I didn't prime my eyes first. But just look at how beautiful those are. Oh my gosh, I am really impressed with these, and I really do love them. I think they make a beautiful pop for the inner corner, tap a little bit on the center of the lid. I've even used these to kind of like do my lower waterline, and they look beautiful. So these are a win for me. Shadow sticks aren't my favorite thing to use. I don't reach for them as often as I want to. I do have quite a few of them, but I've actually been reaching for these quite a bit because they are so creamy, unique, and easy to use. All right, y'all, so we have just a couple of lip products to run through and then we are done. So bear with me for just a few more minutes. But the first one that we have is going to be the Rhode Peptide Lip Shapes. I am wearing one of these on my lips today. And in fact, it's the shade Lift, which is a really pretty pinky neutral shade. It's kind of like my lips, but better. It's a really pretty cool tone pink shade. And the other one that we have is going to be Lift. And this is more of like a peachy brown nude shade. I really like the shade range of these. I like how they go from light to dark. There's lots of really pretty undertones in here. I'm really attracted to the shade selection. So those are the two shades right there that I have. This one is obviously my favorite because it's like that pinky neutral shade that I love so much. But As a lip liner, which is what these are intended to be, I don't like these at all. They don't dry down. They're not budge proof. They will smear. They will wear off. They're not going to last all day. And if you put any kind of lip product on with these that has any sort of staying power at all, the lip liner will fade off and then you're left with like this weird center color thing going on that is not attractive at all. But I like these on their own all over the lips as just a very soft, blurred, my lips with better look that will fade throughout the day. And I'm okay with fading and having to reapplying as long as I know that I'm going to have to. But if I want something that's going to lock down, I want it to lock down. So I think these are really pretty. They're soft, they're comfortable. They're not super hydrating. I prefer it with a little bit of a gloss on over top, but they're not so drying where I feel like my lips are dehydrated and they look all cracked and nasty. I have very dry lips. Like, I cannot express how dusty and crusty my lips are. It's kind of gross actually, but I do think these are pretty on their own as an all over lip color, but as a liner they're just not any good. So if you're planning on picking these up thinking, oh, that's going to be a really pretty soft blurred lip liner that will just last all day, you are going to be so disappointed because that's not going to happen. But if you want these as a product that's going to fade, they're beautiful. I do really like them. So not anything that I would pick up more of, but I wouldn't declutter them. I will get use out of them. From the Lethal Dexter collection, we have the lip stain and the lip oil, and I really love both of these products. I love the lip oil more. I just think it's so hydrating and comfortable on the lips. And this is honestly like a clear lip oil. It looks like it's gonna have like an orange tinge to it, but it really doesn't. Once you get it on the lips, it's a clear one. I have it right there in the most awkward spot known to man, but it's just clear on the lips, but it's very hydrating, comfortable, and it lasts all day. As far as the hydration goes, you are going to have to reapply it if you want just that really pretty glassy effect, but I've really been enjoying that. As far as the lip stain goes, this is beautiful as well, but you need to make sure that your lips are really hydrated, they are exfoliated, and they are in the best shape ever, because this will cling and it will look a little patchy once the stain kind of dries down and everything else comes off. So I like it, but I have to make sure that my lips are in pristine condition, and I have very dry lips, so I have to be careful with this one. But if you don't have dry lips, this is a beautiful lip stain, and it's not nearly as intimidating of a red once it kind of wears off as it looks in here. And in fact, I even like it before it wears off. I think it's really pretty. All right, y'all, so that is going to complete today's video. We had a lot of products to get through. I'm sure this is going to be a lengthy one, but I hope y'all enjoyed it and you found this to be super helpful. But let me know all of your thoughts down below. Let me know if you picked up any of these products, what your experiences have been, and what some of your favorite new releases have been as of late. I want to know it all. Let's have that conversation. Light up that comment section. And as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one. Bye.